Boo! Sorry, I just couldn't resist. Hello, all you lovely cats out there. It's me, Uncle Whiskers, coming to you live from MSTRO Radio, where we always leave you with a smile on your face. I don't think I have to be the one to tell you, but it is that special time of year again, one of my personal favorites among all 547 delegated/mandated holidays. The first one is, of course, Holly Jolly Cheesers Day, but Halloween, well, Halloween might just be my favorite, and I don't care who knows it. And, as I'm sure you all know, Halloween means one thing. That's right, we here at MSTRO have a new episode of Ray Costly, Ghostly Detective for you. I know you've been missing good old Ray, and trust me, he's missed you just as much. Tonight's episode is titled Ray Costly in the Court of Red. In this exciting tale, our boy Ray meets one of his most dangerous foes yet, and, well, I'm just gonna let you listen to find out what happens. Boo! Sorry. I just had to get y'all one last time. Colonel Fruntswick Cigarettes for Kids proudly presents Ray Costly, Ghostly Detective. Once a part-time carpet salesman/detective, Ray Costly was living the dream, helping the good people of Atlas Park with their mysteries as well as giving them a great discount at Archibald Dunlap's mostly used carpet emporium. Yes, our boy Ray was living it up and loving every moment of it. Then, one horrible, dreadful day, Dr. Phantasmo found our poor Ray and shot him with his magical gun. When the bullet ripped through Mr. Costly, it changed him forever. His soul was forced out of his body, but his corpse remained animated, taking on a life of its own. Now Ray and his assistant, other Ray, fight crime full-time, using their unique abilities to wipe Atlas Park of all its dastardly villains. That is the one true mission for Ray Costly, Ghostly Detective. The offices of Ray Costly, Ghostly Detective, had been quite busy after the incident with Slicycle and his plans to turn Atlas Park into a winter wonderland. People were finally starting to take full notice of Ray and other Ray. Their phone was constantly off the hook, ringing from morning till nightfall, and their doors always seemed to be knocked upon by those that truly needed the Ghostly Detective's skills. Missing cats, missing spaces in reality and time, Ray was trying to take care of it all, but it was all becoming a bit much for him. After all, it was just him and his zombie counterpart, and Eldritch Jenny when she could take off time from school and her job as a taxi driver. Stress was beginning to take over, and it finally reached a point where Ray needed to say that enough is enough. It was time for a break, a single day off. So, we find our hero sitting in the surprisingly quiet office, enjoying a delightful breakfast. Other Ray was chomping down on a bagel while Ray was trying out Archibald Dunlap's new cereal geared towards ghosts. It was really just an empty box, but Ray enjoyed the thought nonetheless.
Ray, I've been doing a lot of thinking.
Oh? About what, oh friend of mine?
Remember when you decided that you didn't want this body back, that I could be my own person?
Of course! I mean, it was only about 10 months ago.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about getting a name change.
Really? How come?
Well, I mean, since I'm my own person, I kind of don't want to be known as Other Ray for the rest of my life, you know? Like, we're gonna live forever. I just don't think Other Ray is a good name for me anymore.
Huh. You know what? You make an excellent point, friendo. In fact,
I think you getting your own name will be just the thing to help you feel like your own person. Did you have any ideas on what you'd like to be called? I haven't really gotten that far, if I'm honest. I didn't know how you'd react, so I didn't even bother coming up with anything. Well, you know what? It's not something you have to rush into. This is going to be your new name, after all. You should think long and hard about it, but I want you to know that I'm proud of you. I think this is a really, really big step for you. Thanks, Ray. That means a lot to me. Hey, how's the cereal? Any good? Oh, it's absolute garbage. Like, even though it's completely imaginary, it still somehow tastes like garbage. I don't know how Archibald does it, but even his fake, invisible products are low quality. The morning went on like this for several more minutes, Ray and other Ray finishing up their breakfasts. Ray moved to pick up his copy of the Ghastly Times, a ghost-centric newspaper that was new to Atlas Park. Other Ray picked up his newest obsession, trashy romance novels. They both got through a few pages of their reading material before looking towards one another, a long sigh escaping both of their lips. You're bored too, aren't you? I want to drill my eyes out. That seems excessive, my dude. Look me in the eye and tell me you wouldn't do the same. I mean, I literally can't. I'm a ghost. Oh, you and your stupid logistics. God, but this sucks. I mean, we've been working ourselves ragged for weeks, months even. I was really looking forward to the day, just sitting back, relaxing, not worrying about missing animals or demons from the nth dimension. Don't forget about what happened last week. Oh, God, don't even remind me. I felt so gross about the whole thing. I need to take 7 showers in less than an hour. Ugh, I still didn't get all the gross off of me. Tell me about it. They had to be the ickiest thing we've ever dealt with. Yeah. Ugh, God. Street performers. The worst. Especially jugglers. If those sick freaks aren't conduits for the devil itself, I don't know what is. Preach on, Brother Ray. Preach on. While they pondered over just how gross street performers were, Ray hovered over to the small television they had on Ray's desk. He flipped it on and turned it to the local news station. It was still early in the morning. Perhaps they could still catch Yelling Jarl, the only known weatherman who shouted his reports. It was so nice seeing someone so passionate about the weather. But there was no weather. In fact, there was a scene going on that Ray found unbelievable. I don't believe this. That's what I just said. What's going on, Ray? If you could just let me come over here, man. It's something I've never seen before. Please, for the love of all that's something you've never seen before. Well, now I definitely have to check it out. Yeah, it's like truly, truly indescribable. I don't even know how you'd even narrate this if you wanted to. Well, I can certainly try. Sorry for my outburst. Anyway, what Ray and other Ray were looking at was impossible, or at least they hoped it was. Staring back at them was a picture of Eldritch Jenny as she was handcuffed, being led by police into the Atlas Park police station. Underneath the photo, displayed on the red banner, were the words, "Tentacled Killer Caught," in bold, white letters. The two Rays looked towards one another slowly, the weight of what they had just seen filling their bodies with dread. How could this be? How could someone they know, someone who was so sweet and caring when she wasn't speaking in the language of the dead, be a killer? Something wasn't right here. Things weren't adding up, and it looked like this mystery needed someone to solve it. 2 someones, to be exact. It appeared their daycation was over. Something is not right here, Other Ray. What are we waiting for, then? We have to get her out of there, Ray. You're right. Let's go.
Hopefully we can get to the station without needing a car, because someone decided to destroy our only means of transportation that took us 7 months to afford.
Are you still mad at me for that? It was so long ago.
It was literally yesterday. How did you manage to crash into a barn in broad daylight?
Look, I'm not saying that I don't have some blame to take here, but you're just as at fault in this situation.
How? How do I literally have any part in this?
You had a corpse with slow motor function driving a sports car.
Oh, shut up and grab your coat. We need to start walking right now. Just then, a black El Camino bursted through the floor, both headlights blasting the two rays, nearly blinding them. There then came a cry from underneath them, and it was at that moment that they realized that this car had crashed through Mrs. Doris's apartment, leaving a huge hole not only in her floor, but through her ceiling as well. The elderly woman wobbled her way over to the hole above her, looking right at both rays.
I knew it had to be something with you two. You're always destroying this building, causing havoc for the rest of us.
Mrs. Doris, I am so sorry, but my colleague and I had nothing to do with this particular incident. I swear.
Do you know who built this building? Do you?
Ma'am, I'm sorry, but we have to go. We can talk about this later, I assure you.
My son built this complex with his two bare hands.
Ma'am, that is a great story, but...
Oh, Rodney is such a good boy, such a good, strong boy. I wish he'd find himself a nice man and settle down.
Yeah, it's a real shame, and trust me, if I were single, I'd totally ask him out.
You? Trust me, you're not Rodney's type. You aren't good enough for him.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Ray, come on, we're not dealing with what's important here. Hey, Mrs. Doris, I'm single. Think Rodney would go out with me?
You?
Oh, yes, he'd love someone so handsome and as sweet as you.
What? He looks exactly like me. I'm just as sweet and as compassionate as he is.
That's not true.
Okay, I'm like almost as sweet as you.
Lower.
But we look the same.
Yeah, but your twin there isn't a ghost.
This is insane. I can't believe we're actually having this conversation. You know what? Come on, Other Ray. We need to get down to the police station. The two began walking towards the self-driving vehicle, Ray climbing inside while muttering under his breath, getting his seatbelt on with as much anger as he could muster. Other Ray stood outside the car for just a moment longer, smiling down at Mrs. Doris.
Hey, can I have Rodney's number when we get back?
Oh, honey, I'll leave it under your door for you. Come on, we have to get going. Other Ray waved down to Mrs. Doris one last time before getting himself into the car, both doors shutting on them, the engines beginning, causing the entire car to vibrate. It seemed like it knew where it was going without Ray needing to give it directions. It charged through the side of their newly repaired apartment, hovering in the air for a moment before slamming down onto the ground, zipping through the streets of Atlas Park. It was almost as if the car needed the Rays to get down to the station as quick as possible. Almost as if it were worried about Eldritch Jenny. Eldritch Jenny was being led through the station, heading towards the cells. The police officers were holding her tight, making sure the muzzle around her face was still secure. Though she tried her best to hide it, she was absolutely terrified. Just moments before, she was playing with her nearly dead Neil toys when she was snatched up by the police, all of them screaming at her, calling her a killer. She had never killed anything in her life, as long as you didn't count cosmic horrors and the occasional raccoon on the road. Her parents tried to save her, but the police did not budge on their conviction. To them, Jenny was a killer, and she needed to be taken in. Jenny didn't struggle, not wanting to make it worse for herself or her family. And now she was here, surrounded by Atlas Park's worst of the worst. She saw villains that she and the Rays had taken down over and over again, and they were all looking at her with a sort of respect. Was it because they thought she was one of them now? Before she could ponder any further, she was pushed into her cells, the doors locked on her. Her escape was that much more impossible. She looked towards the cot in the darkened corner of her cell, and she sighed, beginning to make her way to the sad excuse for a bed. Before she could rest, however, a familiar voice called out to her from the cell directly to the left.
I can't believe it. Little Eldritch Jenny has finally crossed over to the dark side.
What emerged from the shadows was none other than Dr. Phantasmo, one of Atlas Park's most notorious villains, and the one who turned Ray into who he is today. Phantasmo had been locked up here since his incident at the pudding factory, and he looked as if he hadn't eaten in weeks. He was usually very muscular, but now he looked rail thin, his costume flapping all about him now that it was too loose. His mask was still on, though Jenny could tell his eyes were pointed like daggers at her.
I guess I'm just surprised it didn't happen sooner. Lord knows I'd have cracked much sooner if I had to work with the Rays. How are they doing anyway? Still shaking in their boots when they think about me?
Eldritch Jenny slowly shook her head.
What? Are you serious? I'm the prime evildoer in this city, and they aren't constantly living in fear for when I return to the streets?
Another shake of her head was her only answer.
Impossible! Absolutely insulting is what this is! Why, once our plan goes through tonight, I will personally find that ghost and strangle him to death.
Calm down, you big oaf. We've got more pressing matters than your ego.
At this point, another figure came from the shadows in the same cell Phantasmo found himself in. This one was much smaller than Phantasmo, a deep blue hoodie covering its form. Their head was skeletal, and cold air seemed to be pouring from his teeth. This was Sliceable, a newcomer to Atlas Park, and the one responsible for the deep freeze during last year's Cheezer's Day celebration. His haunting eyes fell upon the child before them.
Oh, little one, you have no idea what's about to go down.
Sliceable, don't tell her.
Why not? What is she going to do to us, Barry? She can't summon her tentacles. They tied her mouth shut. Let me have my moment, for God's sakes.
Don't use my real name, jeez. You're really not good at this whole supervillain thing, are you?
Sliceable was about to respond, but then all of the lights in the cell block had shut off, leaving everyone in absolute darkness. Everyone started cheering, villains and cops alike, as the ground underneath them shook, cracks forming in the concrete. Jenny's eyes went wide in horror as the ground split, a deep, bright red light shooting out into the sky, drowning everything in a crimson glow.
Yes, it actually worked.
Of course it worked, you dunce. Now shut up and just enjoy the show.
The ground continued to separate until several forms hovered up from where the red light was coming from. They were all wrapped in black cloaks, but Jenny could tell that they were not humans, not by a long shot. Their bodies seemed to twist and bend in all ways that were unnatural, impossible, large bulges protruding on their backs. Most of their faces were hidden underneath hoods, all except for one of them, the leader, Jenny guessed. The being sniffed at the air before turning to her cell. It began to move towards her, large, bony hands gripping the cell, giving her a good look at its face. It was skeletal at the bottom, but the top of its misshapen head looked to be cast from steel. There were no eyes, nor nostrils, yet it kept sniffing at the air, licking at its teeth with a tongue that looked exactly like a tentacle.
Hello, dear child. My name is Bellix. Do you know who I serve?
Jenny could do nothing but shake her head, her body filled with dread.
I serve your father, your real father. My name is Belix, and my master is the Mad King Archimedes. I am the war father of the Court of Red, and it is my job to take you home so that you may sit at the right side of the Mad King. With your help, we can destroy Atlas Park, this whole country, and then the world.
And give us amazing powers beyond our comprehension, right?
The one called Belix looked towards Phantasmo, an ugly grin stretching over its face.
Oh, yes, Phantasmo. My master has promised power and wealth to all of you, and Mad King Archimedes always pays his debts. Now, little one, are you ready to go home?